Hi there, this is Ten. Today we're talking about a Chinese ride-hailing company that's come down ever since its IPO. Moreover, there's a crackdown in his home country. Even its governments feel that the company has too much control and concerns about its data protection. Due to this move, many investors do not know if they should invest in any Chinese company. The company that caused this fuss is Didi Global. In today's video, we'll be talking about what has happened to this company and whether the move made by the Chinese government is justifiable. Before we continue, please smash the like button, and if you'd like to see more such videos, please subscribe to this channel. Firstly, we're talking about the business model of the company. Didi is a Chinese vehicle for hire company headquarters in Beijing, with over 550 million users and tens of millions of drivers. The company provides app-based transportation service, including taxi hailing, private car hailing, social ride sharing and bike sharing, on-demand delivery service and automobile service, which includes sales, leasing, financing, maintenance, fleet operation, electric vehicle charging, and co-development of vehicles with automakers. Secondly, we'll be talking about an analyst's feeling about the recent IPO of Didi. CNBC Jim Cramer endorsed getting in on the IPO for Didi, the Uber-like Chinese company whose shares started trading public in the US last week. Quote, I think the valuation seems immensely reasonable, end quote. The Mad Money host said, quote, if you want to speculate on a Chinese IPO, you have got my blessing to bet on Didi. I will try to get as many shares as you can, end quote. Quote, there are some antitrust concerns here, but as long as they stay on the Communist Party good side, end quote, Kramer said, quote, I doubt they will have much trouble with regulators, end quote. The antitrust worries stem from a report that Chinese market regulators is probing whether Didi unfairly snuffled off smaller rivals and if its present practice have enough transparency. The investigation comes as the country has scrutinized other companies like Alibaba and Tencent. However, Chinese regulators suggest Didi delaying its US IPO. China's cybersecurity watchdog suggests Didi Global should delay its IPO and urge it to review its network security weeks before the Chinese ride-hailing giant went public. The Wall Street Journal reported citing people familiar with the matter. It is unknown whether Didi carried out its review according to the Wall Street Journal, but a person close to the company told the newspaper the company ultimately decided to go ahead with the IPO as it faced increasing investor pressures for a big payout. The Cyberspace Administration of China launched an investigation into Didi just 2 days after the company began trading on the New York Stock Exchange. The agency ordered a suspension of app downloads for Didi after it found the company illegally collected personal user data. Officials in Beijing, especially those at the CAC, were worried of the ride-hailing giant's trove of data potentially falling into wrong foreign hands as a result of the greater public disclosure associated with a US listing. According to the same report, Chinese internet regulators have tightened rules for the country's tech giants in recent years, asking companies to collect, store, and handle key data properly. Didi, which offers service in China and more than 15 other markets, gather vast amount of real-time mobility data every day. Moreover, China announced a huge cybersecurity review of Didi. According to an English translation of China announcement, New users will not be able to register for Didi's ride-hailing service during the country's cybersecurity review. China's move comes just 2 days after Didi held its IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. Didi said in a statement it will fully cooperate during the review. Quote, "We plan to conduct a comprehensive examination of cybersecurity risks and continuously improve on our cybersecurity system and technical capacity," end quote, a spokesperson told CNBC in an interview. China's announcement also reflects a broader trend of the country's regulation crackdown on technology companies based there that were once loosely regulated. In June, Reuters reported that Chinese regulators were probing Didi for antitrust violation. Beijing is also reported looking into the company's pricing mechanism. Didi has warned in its IPO that it met with regulators earlier this year along with several other Chinese internet companies. The ride-hailing company said it might be subjected to penalties as regulatory bodies might not be satisfied with the inspection results. Thirdly, we'll be talking about where Didi store all its China user and route data. China ride-hailing giant Didi Global store all China user and route data at servers in the country, and it's absolutely not possible that the company pass data to the US. A senior company executive said. Didi Vice President Lin Ming also said the company will sue any social media user who said the company transferred data during its IPO process after claims were made on China's Twitter-like Weibo platform. China's cyberspace agency announced it's launched an investigation into Didi to protect national security and the public interest, just 2 days after the company began trading on the New York Stock Exchange. News of the Cyberspace Administration of China probe and the agency's decision to block Didi from registering new users during its investigation. Didi, which offers service in China and more than 50 international markets, gather vast amount of real-time mobility data every day. It uses some of the data for autonomous driving technology and traffic analysis. The Cyberspace Agency did not give an indication of how long the investigation would last or provide any other detail. Due to this allegation, Didi's app was suspended in China. China's cyberspace regulator said it has ordered smartphone app stores to stop offering Didi's app after finding that the ride-hailing giant had illegally collected user data. The CAC said it had told Didi to make changes to comply with Chinese data protection rules 4 days after Didi began trading on the New York Stock Exchange, having raised $4.4 billion in an IPO. Didi responded by saying it has stopped registering new users and will remove its app from the App Store. It said it will make changes to comply with the rules and protect user rights. China has been clamping down on its homegrown technology giants over antitrust and data security concerns. Didi app was still working in China for people who had already downloaded it. It offers over 20 million rides in China every day on average. Moreover, Didi app was being removed from China's WeChat and Alipay for new users, which is another big blow. WeChat, which boasts over 1 billion users, and Alipay, which has over 900 million, are so-called super apps. That means users can open and use other apps like Didi without leaving Alipay or WeChat. But the main Didi service has been removed as a shortcut from WeChat, and searching for the app no longer yields any result. In Alipay, which is run by Alibaba affiliated Ant Group, searching for Didi also returns no result. If a user previously opens and used Didi within Alipay or WeChat or save the Didi mini program, they can continue to use the ride-hailing service within the super app. Alipay and WeChat are critical portals to connect service to users because an individual do not need to download every app they want to use. Instead, they can access them through Alipay and WeChat, with both apps already have a huge user base. Due to this move made by the Chinese government, an analyst explains why he advised investors not to buy into Didi's IPO. One research analyst has revealed why he warned his clients to avoid buying into ride-hailing app Didi ahead of the company listing on the New York Stock Exchange last week. Quote, "Our advice was not to partake in the offering," end quote. Neil Campbell, head of technology, media and telecom research at investment house Remember Security, told CNBC. There have been questions about Didi's IPO for weeks as China started to try to reel in some of its biggest tech firms, fearing that they became too big and powerful. There were some other worrying signs, he said, pointing to questions around profitability, growth deceleration, and the very short 3 days investors roadshow. Another cause for concern was Didi's variable interest entity structure, said Campbell. A VIE is an entity controlled by a company by means other than a majority of voting rights. Dozens of Chinese firms, including Alibaba and Baidu, have used a VIE structure to list on US exchange. Quote, "We have concerns over that, not least because international investors are buying into a Cayman Island registered company which is many steps removed from the underlying technology company that they want to expose to," end quote, said Campbell. In its IPO registration filing, Didi said it is using data on its customers to give it a competitive advantage, mentioning the word data not less than 160 times, according to Campbell. But China is concerned about how Didi has used data on Chinese citizens to grow its platform. Finally, we'll be talking about how China feels about overseas listed firms after Didi's IPO drama. China will step up supervision of Chinese firms listed offshore, its cabinet said days after Beijing launched a cybersecurity investigation into Didi on the heels of its US stock market listing. Under the new measures, China will improve regulation of cross-border data flows and security, the crackdown on illegal activities in the security market, and punish fraudulent security insurance market manipulators and insider trading. China's cabinet said in a statement, China will also check source of funding for security investment and control leverage ratios, it said. China's shift against companies listed overseas is a significant move in a sweeping clampdown on its massive and once free-wheeling online platform economy. US capital markets have been a lucrative source of funding for Chinese firms over the past decade, but the risk of additional scrutiny may now deter domestic firms from listing there. In March, the US security regulators began a rollout of rules to exclude foreign companies from US exchange if they do not comply with US auditing standards, a move aiming at removing China's firms from US exchange for 3 straight years. In May, Reuters reported that Beijing was pressing audio platform similarly to drop US listing plans and opt from Hong Kong instead, with one source at the time citing Beijing's growing concern that US regulators will potentially gain greater access to audit documents of New York-listed Chinese companies. So how much could this crackdown affect Chinese economy? This was a clarifying week for global investors or for anyone concerned about authorization capitalism of just how much the Chinese Communist Party would be willing to pay to ensure its dominance. The answer, according to above calculation from a new partnership formed by Williams Group and Atlantic Council, is as much as $45 trillion in new capital flows into and out of China by 2030. If the party were willing to pursue civil reform, it is an imaginable loss of economic dynamism. What is unclear is that Chinese President Xi Jinping, during this month's celebration of the 100th anniversary of the CCP, have sent an unmistakable message at home and abroad of who is in charge. Chinese domestic companies, particularly of the tech and data-rich variety, will be more likely to shun Western capital markets and adhere to party preference. Foreign investors, only too happy to accept risk for the long-proven upside of Chinese stocks, now must factor in a growing risk premium as Xi tightens the screws. One early hint of trouble was that the companies played down the blockbuster listing. Not only did company officials resist the usual routine of ringing the opening bell, they went further by instructing their employees not to call attention to the event on social networks. Credit all of that to a mixture of increasing authoritarian policies, regulatory concerns over data privacy and US markets, and the continued expansion of fronts in the US-China contest. The most serious matter is the wider chilling effect coming in the context of series of stalled or reversed Chinese economic and marketism reform. At the time, however, Chinese inward portfolio investment grew from near zero to just 2% of the global total, while its outward portfolio investment grew from near zero to only 1%. This is not just an unchilled potential from the past. It is now also the deeply endangered potential for a future that could equal to estimated 45 trillion through 2030. So how does an analyst feel about this move? Hedge fund founder Anthony Scamisi told CNBC that the Chinese government crackdown on Didi Global just days after the ride-hailing giant went public in the US is a direct assault on global capitalism. The bad news for Chinese and the US now is if you are a capital allocator in the US, the risk premium just went up dramatically in China. The founder and co-managing partner of Skybridge said on Squawkbox. Anthony's comment came one day after shares of Didi tanked more than 19% as Wall Street processed a series of regulatory investigations and rejections facing the company. According to the journal's report, government officials in China have held reservations about Didi's large amount of user data ending up in firm possession to the company listing on the New York Stock Exchange, which carries greater disclosure requirements. US corporations and investors have looked to China, which is home to the world's second largest economy, for opportunity despite the CCP's sweeping influence over business affairs. In conclusion, the sinking of Didi's global stock and the pressure caused by the Chinese government reaffirms the belief the Chinese government wants full control over the company's growth. When there is a risk in the number of billionaires in the country, the Chinese government realized that it is no longer communist but socialist. Hence, the government started to clamp down hard on these energy companies. Therefore, it is very difficult to purchase any Chinese growth companies currently. With that, thank you, have a nice day, goodbye.